Lecture of the season. Tonight we host our very own Judith Vollmer with a new poetry collection, The Pavese Stone. It really fills my heart with joy seeing so many local, my favorite writers here. I'm looking at Jen, Lynn, Scott, Izzy, Frank, all of you to come and celebrate Judith. And it's really, truly an amazing community that you build here, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it. My name is Soni Toneme, and I serve as Executive Director of your Pittsburgh Arts and Lectures. I want to welcome you again to tonight's lecture. The Mid-Local series is where we celebrate our Pittsburgh stories and authors. It is presented in partnership with the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, and whose beautiful home we find ourselves tonight. And Mid-Local is made possible with continued support from the Regional Asset District and the Pennsylvania Creative District. I know you're quite impatient because you're here to hear Judith, but if you do not mind, I would like to ask for 5 minutes to tell you all about our great events that we have coming up. And please do not check your phone. I will probably take more than 5 minutes. In 2 weeks, we will host a 10 evenings lecture with the amazingly talented Angela Flournoy with a new novel, The Wilderness. The lecture will be at the Carnegie Music Hall, and that will be on March 23rd at 7 p.m. Then we will welcome Padma Lakshmi for her 10 evenings lecture on Tuesday, March 31st at the Carnegie Music Hall at 7 p.m. 7:30 p.m. Tickets for both lectures are available on our website. In April, we have some great events as well. We will host a live taping of the Planet Money show here. We will host a gala, or some of you call it gala. That is going to be on April 10th, and you're all invited. Get your tickets, and you can find more information on our website. Then we will hear everything that we did not know about mushroom from Merlin Sheldrick. That is going to be a 10 evenings lecture. And we will end the month of April with our very own Adriana Ramirez with her new book, The Violence. You can go to our website to get your tickets for the paid events, especially the gala. My colleague told me to remind you, if you have not gotten your ticket for the gala, you should. And also register for free events as well. And all of the information are available on our website. Our website is pittsburghlectures.org. Really, do join us. Our friends from White Wells, they're here with books, Judith's book. If you did not have a chance to buy your copy, we ask that after the event for you to buy your copies, because Judith has graciously agreed to personalize your books for you. And talking about the personalization, the way that we're going to have 2 lines. For those of you who have not gotten your books, we will have a line in front of the book table here that will go this way. And then for those of you who already have the books, we will start the signing line right here, and we'll wind down the hall. And once you're done buying your books, we ask that you join the end of the line so we can keep the circle moving. Tonight's program will be a reading by Judith, followed by a conversation with me with mostly questions from you in between. During the Q&A, if you have a question, you only need to raise your hand, and we will pass the microphone for you to ask your question. In order to make sure that everyone has the chance to participate, we ask that you keep your questions short and concise. And we also ask that you silence your phone during the event and refrain from using flash photography throughout. This concludes our announcement for this evening. Judith Vollmer is the author of 7 poetry collections. This is a great feat because it took someone 10 years to write a collection himself. but she wrote 7. She has received poetry fellowships from the NEA and the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. Vollmer is a Pittsburgher through and through. Some of her previous works, Reactor, was nominated for the National Book Critics Circle Award. The Door Open to the Fire was awarded the Cleveland State University Press Poetry Prize and was a finalist for the Patterson Prize. And Level Green was the winner of the Brittenham Prize. She also is the author of the limited edition collection Black Butterfly, winner of the 1997 Center for Book Arts Prize. Vollmer teaches in the low residency MFA program in poetry and translation at Drew University. She's a recipient of the Chancellor's Distinguished Teaching Award of the University of Pittsburgh and is founding editor of the literary journal 5 a.m. We are lucky that she lives here in Pittsburgh, and we're so happy that she gifted us this new collection. So Pittsburgh, please help me give a warm welcome to Judith Vollmer. Thank you.
Don't make me hyperventilate any more than I already am. Thank you, Sony, for having me and for that warm introduction. Sony has some other big news. His debut volume of poetry is Conbeat, and it's really a wonderful book. He's going to be reading at City Asylum on Sunday, the Ides of March, I think. But congratulations. I'd also like to thank visual artist and essayist Stephanie Flom, who 3 years ago invited me and Mihaela Moskaluk to read here, but there was a COVID upsurge, so it went virtual. She's Sony's predecessor. So. Thanks to Carrie Salerno and Alice James Books for making this book, making it happen. And everybody here who's, I guess, New Jersey, here, there, and everywhere. My family, my biological family, my extended family, my chosen family, and people here virtually from Bozeman, Montana, and elsewhere. Thanks to White Whale Bookstore for selling our book. So I want to open with 2 older poems written back when I worked with Lynn Emanuel and Patricia Dobler and Maggie Anderson, who I was lucky to work with for more than 20 years. And so 2 of those. Port of Entry. The world breathes its generous display. You can have this and this. Look, Mama, a fishtail. A child cries at the icy seafood window. And in the blip before hearing her mother's yes, she's gone. Time is silk, burning, eyes out of nowhere, open, petals, pages. She's through. She's peeking onto the tip of the flat, wavy universe. A world rushes forward and up through her feet, palms, and fingertips. Ecstasy, move us each time. My orange. Take one from the basket with the cup of bittersweet coffee. This is all I'm going to get this morning because Vitorini is teaching me again another membrane of truth. So do not repeat my spendthrift days, the ones that went uneaten, little suns on my bookshelf, dried up pulp and laces. Now when I try for greater focus, every plate means something. And yes, there's no food in the Charter House of Parma because Stendhal was obese and maybe punishing himself and more. And now there's another new war, and time is so tight. Now bend my thumb, angle it down through the oily skin of the globe. Thank the old cast-offs tucked into the toes of the Christmas stockings. I was digging for the Kennedy halves and the walnuts and the chocolates. In the lunchbox, I wanted concentrate or the horrible tang the astronauts carried into space. Though we're known throughout our world for our bombs, our baskets glow with the light of 1,000 miles of trees, and the human fingers of the pickers burnt with the sweet acid. Now I'll read from the Pavese stone. This is a book of time travel and space travel, and a book of elegies and character portraits. And I will start with a poem called The Green Ray. Jules Verne wrote a novel called The Green Ray, which is a romance, and Tacita Dean, the visual artist, has a short film about it. And child Gertrude is my paternal grandmother who kept a dream book, AKA known as a gambler's book, but she did dream numbers. And I saw this once when I was a student, I was an undergraduate in Amsterdam, and I took a train to try to make the right movement and get on the train, not miss the train, and see it. The green ray, it's an optical phenomenon sometimes observed on the sea horizon. Have I done enough counting the blue steel thistle flowers at my door and bowing to the child Gertrude, 85, sightless, bent, cooling her pies on the sill? Have I visited Miro's Flemish imitations enough, his tender creams and bronzes, bright rubbed silk grays and scarlet pipings, loving him as much as more than Rembrandt? Hold that thought. I thread the canal belts and rings, running low on cash, soon returning across the North Sea to home. But walk the shoreline one more time, ticking through the fields of tulips with their 400 years of slaughter and indulgences, so I might see, finally, the day stars, half-second stuff of miracles. Feeling younger, a needle punching, no longer sliding through surfaces. Edge of the 90 islands, in mud and gravel, I sit and wait. Have I delayed my strangeness Or have I been like Gertrude's dream book, an open secret splayed on my morning table, spellbound by increments in the shapes of numbers or letters? Holding my breath inside the sun's descent, disk white hot, sky hovering, see it descending, buttering, watch it, close eyes a second, lids hot canopies, helpless, shut to cool, open and see, wait for it. Blue sea and lemon star flare to vapor, and there a heartless green, a bitter lime, a freezer burnt chartreuse tongue, swollen and seething horizontally atop the sea. What is about to leave our lives at brittle speed? Easing my eyeballs, softer now, see it once, you just about have it, or think you see it, and burnish to gold flames later in the telling of it, your whole life, thrill undimmed. I was driving back from New Jersey late at night, and I was suddenly overcome by a kind of visitation. So I pulled over to stay at the Hampton Inn along the Juniata River. And this is for Peter Oresic in memory, 1955 to 2016, along the Juniata. The moon shifted and figures ran across the wall, repeating back and forth, patchwork of human arms, a turnpike guardrail, spruce trunks, wind shreds, then stopped, centered the room, floor to ceiling, and took the shape of a slender river witch, dripping branches. I was expecting a face, I shouted in half sleep. Hot asphalt speed roiling under me, my all-day drive toward Udine. Her branches scratched down onto my bed, table lamp still burning, then covered that too. All but you, all but your book, I felt. I felt she'd come to read or act out or translate to Rusin, or a primer of how a tree might paint you. Strong brushwork of birch tincture to anoint, alleviate your last heaving. My connection to Pavese. I've always loved post-war Italian poets, fiction writers, and I think the first person I knew who read Pavese closely was Lawrence Joseph. And then I had read an interview with Philip Levine, and he said that Pavese gave him his voice, changed his voice. And for me, Pavese has meant he's changed my sense of space. I think it's a feminist concept or a womanist concept to take space, to speak to space, and to address the everyday object in a new way. But the personal connection, too, is from my father, who worked at the Enrico Fermi Lab in Piedmont, in northern Italy, and in Vercelli, and near Turin, the town where Pavese was. lived, worked. And so there's a connection here. If I can just find the page number. It's called The Badges. My father knew. Enter the garage, peel off white booties, drop jumpsuit outside the cellar door, step inside, then drop the white undershirt into the tub of bleach, drop the plastic 2x2-inch badge bearing his face and Westinghouse site name into the bucket of used up dosimeter blister packets. We plucked these back out to play spies. A spy I played strung white lights around the cellar door while father sat at his bench drawing hydraulic tools and safety hatches. You remember Cannikin, 1971, father. The chimney's rock rubble rocketed up, plummeted down onto the Dnieper River and Kakova Reservoir. A Russian missile hit Zaporizhia reactor this morning. 2 more strikes just now. The collapse forms another rubble chimney, then firestorm. Rocks will burst and fly back up. Poisoned flume. Father, in your distant realm, come no closer, don't look down. Spinning back down into the pellet bin, also called earth, also called vapor. So in order to try to make my father's work visible, it wasn't like the work of other fathers who were in construction, who were butchers, who were laborers, day laborers. It was something I really couldn't see or understand. In order to make it visible in some way, I needed to focus on land and labor as Pavese did, focus on the everyday and focus on the tangible world. So I'll read this excerpt from a very long poem. It's called The Grassy Knoll, The Box Cutters, and Reader Notes. And it's about the 4 houses that were important to Pavese. And I transfuse them or immerse them with 4 houses of my childhood memory. Then came the 4 houses, the natal home on the main road, La Mora, where he did farm work, one of his first duties, and through a protagonist was to break branches for the fire and grind the coffee. Il Nido, the palace of the wealthy family where art and music lived. La Casa di Nuto, house of amicizia, of Pavese's lifelong, profound friendship with Nuto. Or Pino Scaglione, where the clock and paper desk calendar remained stopped upon the time and date of Pavese's death in Far Turin. The 4 houses, I feel, seem to lift and extend themselves from their 3 dimensions into me. Each amplifies the structure of my transatlantic reading. Each steadies my thinking, gives me the feeling that I seem to have drunk wine and become someone else. It is never fully possible to be like or to know another writer. but rereading over 5 decades might allow an immersion or an imagined transmission, a kinship. My 4 houses transmute their shapes. La Mora is the truck farm above the Allegheny River where my uncle bunked and worked from the age of 13, where hogs were often driven down Pig Alley for the slaughtering. Il Nido, palace of art, lit by an alabaster lamp evenings. Behind lace curtains is my piano teacher's house, fitted for the children's recital in spring. The party table is lit with a glass bowl of chili punch. The natal home and the house of long friendship conflate and emerge indoors before a small bookcase. In winter, reading with my brothers. Outside, in all weathers, my eternal sublime. Pavese called his portal to a sublime La Gaminella, a hill like a planet. At the edge of our village is the stretched out backbone, whose spine is studded with a large green dome, a place thus far protected, place of underground water and weapons. I had the idea that I was going to write to the great Ghanaian artist whose magnificent piece hangs behind us in the State Gallery. And that's sort of a fantasy I had. And I had another fantasy that Obama, when he was first elected, would designate Pittsburgh as a recycling capital of the world, because it's really one of the things we're really good at. Well, Steve Root, that's a shout out to you too, because if you're here, the recycling business of art, the gift of it. There's also a scene of the 14th century artist Ambrogio Lorenzetti in Siena. It's the first known public Western art installation, fresco, and it's called The Council of the Nine. Anyway, here's the poem. Good and Bad Government. Why, walking along the river Mon, do I mind text mosaicist El Anitsui? Skip New York and Edinburgh. Come visit with your copper wire circlets and aluminum pool tabs dripping their scarlet paint onto our open fires, ghost fires. Come for art. Also flick the switch on our new lab's monster eater who will sift and eat all plastics in the sea, repurpose, spit back out biopellets, tubes, lungs, and eyes of human creature, plant. Why do I write in the continuous present, disappearing like cursive, like slow thought, going, gone, recall the booth curtains, formal sliding sound on metal sprockets, rows on rows that pull down and click, each vote a tongue. Why confess I have ignorantly, mostly in the choice of magistrate, twice logged my votes based on a neighbor's impressions of his son-in-law's knee surgeon, yet missed only one primary in my long life. Good and bad. A bear, a young bear, loose from the Highland Park Zoo, has saved a bird drowning in the Allegheny. An hour east, the slobbering drills are slipping fingers of uranium into Indian Creek. Why do I avoid completing my DNR and drinking from the fountain in the chemo lab? Why ignore a civic call to kill invasives in Frick Park, to keep my mind on ritual walks at dusk, not thinking of much but space litter dropping under stars and glinting onto the Hood Canal, nuclear subs. Our county clerk today leaked files on behalf of sunshine laws. Good. Walking on roadsides, foot grooves to bridges, viaduct catwalks, river rat narrows, tree lawns dotted with fleabane, crabgrass, shreds, bins. Pausing at the netted coral geranium under the street lamp to detonate the negative space of my curse on the high court's blows cast down upon us. In Siena, I stood struck before Lorenzetti's Council of the Nine, cast time under an aesthetic spell, art historian Randolph Starn writes. Relief in secular ease within the chamber off the severe piazza's grid. I ducked away from the Nine to visit the mural's doctor for tinctures. I bought socks in the wool shop, had my boots resoled, kissed the fingers of the languid muses, and flew home safe to pray under a street lamp's calm disinterest. Across the Allegheny, old Bonka's murals guard the last century's contradictions in cobalt, red, and green. Blood swells the breasts of the mothers, the guns, the fire stacks and judges, a worker cradling a model of the church in his arms. Angel prudence whispers, be careful what you say against the tyrants. I call my civic presence campanellismo, patriotism, though lately I have visited my borough office mostly to complain. I was living in Rome for a while and have happened to unpack, and this occurred. And when you travel, if you're lucky and you can travel, something changes, or some dreams change, something in your waking hours changes. The tube. The week I moved here, barely unpacked, someone slapped me fully in the face. Crossing a parking lot, coming from opposite directions, threading through mopeds and smart cars. She was staring, and in an instant, passing each other from less than an arm's width came the slap. It didn't hurt, a sting from a bat wing or flying fish. I took it as a benediction, like the row of cobbles on the left side of my new street that point directly to my corner and up my steps into my front room. One evening hour that first week, I saw fastened to the wall, roughly chair rail height, a glass tube, an inch or so thick, pulsing light around the perimeter like weird neon, or I could say insect fluid or liquid chlorophyll stored for winter. That light, that harsh palm to my face, keep and deny my solitude. I am telling you this so you'll not feel so lonely, though I understand if you do. Two more poems. My partner Anne and I had a chance to visit Santo Stefano di Belbo, and the fantasy part of the poem is that I imagined that I had visited the site, the quarry site where Pavese's stone was dug up and made. The Pavese stone, so this is the title poem. May we walk back to the bus, ride back to the edge of the Cava Alice's shelf, in grasses where the ancient African plate slid north into the Piedmont. So many grooves, barely wide enough for a finger trailing the crevasses, and the mud, the undersea's belly busy with solitary corals, digging tunnels up and into sandstone pools. Dear Spirit, here is a ring I would slide onto your finger, a plain thread. Say 2 brief lines from Luco or The Moon and the Bonfires. I've prayed to the sun-blazed hole in the front barn wall at La Mora. May I slip a letter or poem through and no longer treat it as the eye of a strange god. Don't rush, please, I would have whispered to the quarrymen. Don't cut so fast. But they split clay, hoisted, settled the slab onto the flatbed for you. For you who would not settle, only arrive. I took the north bus, stepped off, and walked as if bearing a stranger into Cimitero Santo Stefano Belbo. Stopped while the men worked, smoked, lifted, breathing, hovering, lowering the slab onto your massive, fresh rectangle. I left my loves through their neurons, though their neurons might drift onto the damp earth. I breathed the Alta Longa hazelnut dust, at home with your sentient stone, most beautiful. Its colors are perfection. No powdered ground or burnished ochre carrying more gold. No rust as rich a blood, no finer charcoal stroke. Your somber face, eyeglasses, suspended pen, mapping waterways and trains. Looking into your face, I keep blending our 2 cities, 2 wars, a third, 2 voices I can't stop repeating. I reread you walking into town as if I'd been dropped or slid into it whole from girlhood when I first tried writing poems, taking photos with an empty camera. When Natalia Ginsburg wrote, "You were a difficult friend," I raised my hand immediately. That's me too. When I read for you at the bar, when I read to you at the bar, in case you might show, disappearing all the myths, though you usually drink your cup with first sun, and I tend to sleep late. I'll close with the opening poem to this book. This has lines from Shelley's poem for the Osceola, and it has an epigraph from William Story, his book Roba di Roma, living birds for sale, nightingales and thrushes, parrots and sparrows, all chattering and cooing. Among them on stands and perches may be seen all sorts of owls. The owls of Piazza della Rotonda. I've seen her flutter and drop for vole, once a clutch of mice, watching her perch in the red spruce, headlocked on the alley. Once dusk, a rat rustled in the ditch and skittered the brick wall to open window to crib and chewed an infant's lips to blood. Was she near? I pray I'll see her again, show me how to collapse the terrible distances place to place. Stretch into other lives as I stare up into the winter hexagram's 6 stars. Lonely human wishes twist my head. I love her. Some say the sole intelligence of owls is the hunt, the feeding, kill. Do you crave a 15-grand French bulldog, a starfuck, a big prize? Then you understand the piazza market and its wares, women preening, strolling, owls tied to their velvet wrists, trophies. I offer my head and handwriting to her sky. Who can see distance or save a thing? Fly that fast toward food and prey and flood. Deep violet and green under the temple wing, hiding my face with shadows and a knife in my sleeve. Daybreak, no customers. I cut the leather cords. Owls lift like tablecloths, feathers fanning and whipping the flimsy ties. Solemn Barbigiana, white tufted prince, little Civetta, you heartless flirt, and the Aziola, Shelley's minor poems, central character. I felt to know it was something human. No one saw me approach or leave. One last, older and slower, I invited onto my shoulder. Such as nor voice, nor lute, nor wind, nor bird, the soul ever stirred. I swiveled my head and met her eyes, and we flew. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith. How are you feeling?
Other than hoarse, I'm fine.
There are so many Pittsburgh writers here, and
I see them. I'm kind of overwhelmed by
I
them.
know,
Yeah.
no. How do you feel, to be in this community, like you help build, like this community of writers who just show up for us?
I feel touched. I feel celebratory. I feel like celebrating. I feel a lot of things. These old connections and recent ones. But I do think about the years. It's 30 years right now since the publication of Mad River by Jan Beatty. Mm-hmm. I think about all the writers in the room who Ed Ochester not only supported and loved, but brought together. Lynn Emanuel, Toy Darracott, Alicia Oestreicher isn't here in the room, but I think she might be watching. Mm-hmm. Larry Levis, David Wojon, a writer I love, Gary Soto, just so many.
Yeah, we're really deeply, we are lucky. We're really lucky. Talk about this book. I told you before you came on stage that I did not know much about Pavese before. And I feel like I'm not the only one. Right? And in an interview, Scott wrote a beautiful piece for the Pittsburgh Review of Books. If you have not read it, you should definitely go and read it. And you told Scott that, Pavese was a big influence on you. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of writer, what kind of person he was, and how did he influence you as a writer?
Well, he has a number of statements about how excited he was about the image, and he definitely influenced me that way. And that I've always felt that the image itself is the aesthetic, and it acts like a centrifugal force and acts like a centrifuge for the poem. And the poem on the page is not the poem, of course. So it takes voice, all those things. But I think I got there through the novels first, and then to the poems through Arrowsmith's translation. So I think it's really a long story, but probably the image. It starts with the image for me.
Yeah. But I want to also add to your poetry as well the sound. The first time I read the collection, I think it was at the end of November, I read it in silence because I share a bed with my wife and she prohibited me to read aloud. But I went back and I read it aloud, and it's a completely new experience. The sound is so rich. It's such an amazing experience for me to hear myself reading these beautiful words. And I wanted to ask, when you're writing, do you picture the reader reading your poems in silence, or do you picture them reading it aloud, a performance?
Tough question. Well, I think I pay attention to the blending of high art and low art, and it starts Baudelaire for me. And I think Pavese is a master of that. He can curse in a poem, and in the most unusual way. He can talk about prostitution, gambling. He can talk about anything in the realm of high art, low art, and line itself lends itself to that. For me, I think the marriage between, I guess I used to be really into pop culture and name dropping that into my poems. And lately, I'm more into science fiction, and especially since I had brain surgery last year, I think I am interested more in that brain field than I thought I was. I remember when I was going under anesthesia, and the two really nice aides and attendants, attendants and surgeon came in and said, well, you try to think of some things that'll calm you down and just kind of drift off. And what are you thinking of that'll please you? And I said, blueberries and cosmic space. And then I went out. And I just feel that's kind of where I am.
Blueberries and cosmic space. You just mentioned high art and low art and dropping names. You do that in some of the poems here. And one thing that really struck me when I was reading the book was, in the same poem, you will drop the names of those, great big names. And then, and the couple lines later, it's going to be the aunt, the grandmother toilet and polish hill. And they're on the same plane. You know, everyone's like this, every image, everything in the poem is like the same equal attention. And I wanted to ask you, is that your viewpoint in life, right? Or, you know, is that what are you trying to tell us there where next to Dante, next to Pavese is the person walking down Allegheny River and the same beauty? Wait.
I think I'm going to quote Lee Young Lee or misquote him, the poet Lee Young Lee, and say, I don't know, the cosmos, or some people would call it divinity or God or the spirit. I will never understand it, but that's the way I feel about Pittsburgh. I will never understand it. I've been writing about Pittsburgh for 30 years or more, but I won't understand it. So, therefore, those people walking around in front of me, literally, those people I eavesdrop on, those people I've met, will be always the equivalents, the equivalents of those other voices, the great voices of the poets, and I think it's a blending of something that I will never understand, but it's real to me.
Thank you, thank you. I see the world a different way, really, after reading your work, really. And there's one of my absolute poems, you did not read it, and I'm so happy that you did not, because everyone now will have to go and get a copy of the book and read it on your own. The title is Little Fox Stole. It's a stunning poem. And the way that you capture one moment and you immortalize it, for me, it's what poetry does best. And I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what is poetry for?
That's impossible. Well, it's for everybody. It's for readers of poetry. And I stay in my house most of the time, and I read books. And I think with AI, which terrifies me, and with the absence of NEA funding, for that matter, and with the censorship applied to NEA funding, I think I need to stay in my house and read books. I'm not antisocial, I'm just reclusive. But the Little Fox Stole, I asked Lisa Alexander to go with me to do something, and she said she would do that. But I wanted to exhume my mother's fox stole. I had buried it in a marshland in Westmoreland County. I don't know why I did that. I think I was grieving her, but it was so moth-eaten by that time. She always said it was muskrat. It was not fox or anything like that. And but I buried it, and my brother Reed might know this story of the other fox stole, but anyway, Lisa said she would do it, and we never have done it so far, but I miss it. I long for it. So I'm glad you like that poem.
I love it. I love it. I want to get some questions from the audience. If you have a question, you can raise your hand. I do have a question. I was talking with a colleague of mine this morning, and we were talking about poetry is everywhere now. Even on TikTok, people are reading poetry. And I wanted to ask you, I'm happy about it, but I wanted to say, why do you think that is right now? What is about our society that is pushing people to go back to poetry more?
Well, we need it. We need it now more than ever, maybe. We hear it. We listen to it. We listen to poets, maybe the way we don't listen to other people. When Zaborska was quoted again and again and again about the war poems that she had written, people craved it. People craved poems. So I think the fact that it's more public, it's, Toy Derricott knows this because she founded Kavikanem, it's need, it's voices checking in, most of my teachers, almost to a person, were men, except Diane Ackerman. And there was an explosion of women writers, luckily, in the 70s and 80s, that hasn't quit yet, and ought to be read more and published more. And I think, I don't know, I think I can say a lot more, but I got a little bit of chemo brain going on here.
Thank you. Any question from the audience? It's Toy. Toy has a question. They have a microphone for you, Toy.
I know people are thinking, I don't have this quite formulated, but Judith, that was such a beautiful reading. And, I'm just astounded by the sense of, you've always written political, in a way, poems, a lot of, about what's going on in our world at the time. And I still hear this in your work, but I also hear this way, these lines that hold eternal beauty and eternal resolution in some way. And it's almost like in the poems themselves, there are so many last lines. Mm-hmm. These beautiful lines that seem to come to something so incredibly resonant emotionally and intellectually. It's almost like there's nothing more you can say. The poem's over, and then you go on.
Oh, that's bad editing on my part, I was a newspaper reporter for many years, and I got hammered into me the who, when, where, why aspect of journalism, and I over-narrated for years and years and years. I had to learn not to do that, but I still do it.
That is what I'm saying. No, I'm saying that the poems just, there's so much in each poem, so much beauty and so much wisdom. I do want to ask you a question, and that is do you see in yourself and in your writing a difference between this book and your last book? Do you feel your writing is coming from a different place or for a different reason, or is there a different mindset?
I thought The Reactor, the book I wrote about nuclear power and all kinds of other stuff, was my favorite book. And this book, I think it's different. I think it's trying to do more of the same, but do it differently and more lyrically and more like the poem called The Tube. I'm more in touch with something else, I think. This phosphorescence and sense of science, I'm more interested in that. And my radiation oncologist recommended to me 2 books on the brain, and I think they're very good. So I think they're doing that more, and want to do more of that. I don't know about wisdom at all.
I don't think so. Time for one more. I have to say, though, I did feel like this one was very personal, intimate, and really the wisdom in that was very there. And I have all of the poems, I had to sit with them, and then really things like this is making me think a lot. So, yeah, I do echo that. I think it was very personal, and the memories, and I wrote them down, but the places, the familiar places, the people that are present in this collection. We have a question here.
Has this last year's journey that you've gone through with your chemotherapy, radiation, and so on and so forth, you haven't spoken to it, maybe a lot of people don't know about it, but my question to you is, has that affected your poetry in the way that you write, what you write about, how you feel about what's going on? I mean, I'm struck, just to tell you, as you bringing up the cosmos, at a time in your life where you struggle with those issues yourself, I think.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of mortality in the book, and my editor Carrie Salerno pointed out to me that, well, you're writing differently. I was debating about whether to take a poem out of the book. I think the poem was called Quantum Burn. It is in the book. But she said, well, there's one more grave site and one more exhumation in it. And that made me laugh. So I don't know. There's a lot of immediacy. I don't plan ahead much. I don't want to, and I don't need to, I think. So that's maybe a way that I've changed.
Thank you so much. I know you will have a lot of questions during the book signing. I encourage you to go get your copy and then join the end of the line and get your book personalized. Again, thank you so much, Judith. Thank you for what
Thank you.
Thank you again for sharing us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vincent. Okay. Get your books. We'll be back.